Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger. With me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. How are you today, Kevin? We've had quite an adventure with the internet, and we are back. We're excited. Long story short, how are you today, man?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. It's good to be back in front of the camera and with you alongside of me, and just being able to sit down and talk about the things that mean a lot to both you and I. And that's this industry and finding ways, having meaningful conversations that in turn give back to those in the industry and in the community and what have you. And it's just good to be here. And it's it's that good old, and I've got my chops busted for it for ever since we moved out to this property in 2017. I've through various points in time had issues with internet service out here. It's just there's no hardwired, there's no DSL, there's no fiber. So we've gone through two or three different internet satellite hotspots and just trying some different things. And this one just happened to be kind of Mother Nature, and Starlink, who I'm using now. The customer service is a little slow, but they have been very responsive. They've credited 2 months of service. They've sent all the necessary hardware out to try and resolve this issue. They thought they had it figured out the first time we installed the new cable. That wasn't it, so they sent a new router a few days later, and boom, we're back online. So hopefully,
Absolutely.
no more hurricanes blow up this way and everything stays stable and we can really continue to do this during the winter. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's those hurricanes of course, I'm sure anyone, I mean, you're of course in Kentucky, pretty much the Midwest, and you were affected by these hurricanes. I know a bunch of people in Appalachia were affected by them. It's really kind of crazy, that type of system that could come that far inland. Thoughts and prayers to anyone in Asheville. I heard they really got it bad.
I mean,
But anyways, I'm really glad to be back with you. Sticking with the weather note, the weather has been nice enough to where you've been able to really prolong that paving season. And so today, along with just catching up, this is also a catch up for you and I. It's really nice because we've continued our business operations a lot through WhatsApp and texting and things like that. But it's our chance to really dive into what the vibe has been like, what it's been like for you as an asphalt paving business owner, having an extended season, getting to work with more days in your season while balancing your crew, while balancing just the unexpected, really, how to deal with all that. So I kind of thought I'd start off with that and just get your overall general thoughts on what it has been like to have an extended paving season. I mean, maybe even up to a month, and even looking still promising for the near future, or potentially promising.
yeah, I mean, in our situation, and probably most of those that are in this industry that deal with the seasonality of it, most of us get depending on where you are, extreme northern United States. Sometimes they only get a 6 or 7 month season, and where we're at, it's somewhere typically between 8 and 10 months. So I would imagine, just like anyone that deals with that, I mean, we are very fortunate to be getting this string of warmer weather. It's giving us the opportunity. We're not there yet, but it's what it's done is given us an opportunity to get to and reach some of the goals that we set out earlier in the year. And again, we set some ambitious goals, basically starting over from scratch with a brand new entity, a brand new brand and business here in this market, which has its fair share of reputable and good and solid paving contractors. So we weren't sure how much of the market share we could even reach out and grab. And to be, I was looking, man, just I can remember 60, 90 days ago, and saying, man, we're not going to get there. I don't think we're going to get there. Even as much progress as we made, and the leads were coming in, and the activity on Google was picking up, and the phone was ringing, and SEO obviously was starting to show us some favor. I still had my doubts, and this has given us kind of a reassurance and a fresh breath of air that, man, this we might just pull it off. And I think that's a testament to just continuing to do the next right thing, keep continuing to run the play, keep doing the things day in and day out, even when things don't seem to be happening or when things don't seem to be going your way or the volume isn't what you thought maybe it could be or what you anticipated it might look like. And I've just got to keep reminding myself and reminding my partner and reminding my crew and my team and every, my partner and Elizabeth and everybody that believes in us, that we've just got to keep running the play and we've just got to keep showing up and we've got to keep answering the phone and running, just whatever all the little steps look like that uh, are part of building a business, starting a business, growing a business. We've just got to keep doing those things. And most of the time, even, I've been doing this 16 years, and I think this is my 16th season. I mean, if you continue to do those things, most of the time things work out, and we're starting to see that. I mean, I got some leads last week that put a potential, possibly, another $250,000 worth of work on our plate here to get to before the end of the year, which is a huge boost in revenue. I mean, um, that's a 20-30% bump here at the end of the year that we might be getting on an annual scale that makes a big impact on a lot of people, financially, and then going into winter and doing some of the things that we're doing and continuing the branding and the marketing, just all the things that it takes to run and fuel this engine that we're, in this machine we're trying to get fuel in to get off the ground. It's a big boost. So I just it's just a testament to just keep on keeping on, because uh, I've done this before. I've built a business before. I'm doing it again, and it's pretty awesome because I haven't had to grind like this and be humbled like this and look at things with this kind of lens or perspective in a very long time, because we had gotten to a point where even though there was the day-to-day minutia and there's always hard things when you're an entrepreneur or business owner. Like, it never really gets any easier. The problems just become different, right? So just to be kind of back in on ground level and dealing with this kind of um, getting off the ground kind of stuff is very I don't know. It's humbling, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be right back where I've been before. And thank God I've been in these positions before, because it's given me a different angle of an approach and a different perspective this time around. Um, that things are going to be okay, and it amazes me still how things just kind of fall in your lap if you keep just putting one foot in front of the other and doing the next right thing, man. So we're just out here grinding.
I hear you.
That's
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of leading into my next thought, which is just, the people around you that you're working with day to day. You kind of have this uh the the lack of knowledge of when the season is going to end. You're going through these thoughts yourself before you start getting to the point where things are starting to work out, where you mentally have to be tough enough for your partner, your business, the people you work with, in order to keep this thing going. But as you've kind of lived this last month and had the season extended, um what has it been like being around your crew? Well, what the people that you have decided to keep on as your kind of core entity? It's getting towards the end of the season for them. It's of course been a long, rough season. They themselves, I'm sure have some communication with you about what to expect, but what is kind of your attitude towards your mentality towards approaching them every day? And then what is that interaction between you and the crew that you have left been like for you?
well, and it's to sum it up, it's been nothing short of remarkable and impressive, because I've been doing this quite a long time, and I've been around great teams. I've been around not so great teams. I've been around uh, where we've got 30 people involved and 3 to 5 crews going and just so much management and so many things to get done. and so many irons in the fire. And uh, it's really cool, man, because and I shared it on my story a little bit earlier this week. Um, Kind of what we are and who what we look like, and I shared, we've got a truck, a trailer, a paver, we've got a skid steer, and we've got a box trailer that we towed all of our tools around, and our roller, and that's all we are. And it's myself and it's four guys, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And to think that we're gonna, and I'll go ahead and say it, we're gonna do seven figures plus this year, which um I'm pretty proud of that, man, because I didn't know. I mean, you talk about five guys literally, and we've only been, you know, in production mode most of the year, 2 to 3 days a week, because that's what the workload called for. That's what the schedule would allow. That's where we could all get together and say, hey, we've got, and we wouldn't just go out and work every day just to work every day. We probably could have worked every single day of the season, but it doesn't make sense to go out and just do a small job today and a small job tomorrow. And ooh, it's like we just kind of grouped all of our work together that made sense financially, that made sense for our production, that made sense for our logistics, that made sense for our efficiencies. And that's how we chose to operate. And everybody on the team has been on board with that. And they've understood that it's not going to look like 40, 50, 60-hour weeks all the time. Now, I'll tell you this last 2 or 3 weeks and however many weeks we've got left, um, are going to look more like that. I mean, we have jammed some work in here in the last however much longer of the season we've got. And the thing is now too that we're dealing with shorter days. So the sun starts going down at 5 o'clock. So we've got to shift that mentality. We've got early starts and we've got early finishes. So we've got, instead of a 14, sometimes 15, 16-hour window, if you can allow for some variables and some things to go wrong in the day that allow you some grace. We've really got to get dialed in on our scheduling, our logistics, our production, our planning. And I think that's been the biggest piece, has just been transparent communication, planning, and more communication, and just so everybody knows exactly what we've got to do. We don't really have a shop that we're operating out of. I mean, I'm running the business out of a home office essentially. We've got our truck, trailer, and pavers stored at our trucking facilities property. We've got another rental shop that we're storing some of the other equipment. So we don't even really have a place where we meet every morning and then, take off from. We're all kind of picking up our pieces of equipment and our things and whatever we need to get to work to the job site for that day. And we're meeting on site, and that's when we take off. So it's just been a lot of good communication before and after work, and just making sure everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows exactly what to do. And then when we get out to the job, I mean, it's, the and we're prepping and paving all of our stuff. I mean, I got so spoiled, and this is how we used to do it back in the day when I first started. We prepped and paved our own stuff, and back then it was sledgehammers and pickaxes and saws, and we didn't have skid steers and milling attachments and pickup brooms and some of the things we have now. And thank God we do. I mean, thank God the little amount of equipment we have is exactly enough for what we need to do to go out there and get these jobs ready and get them paved all in a day's time. So most of the time it's 2 or 3 jobs a day. Um, so it's just a testament to everybody's willingness. It's a testament to their work ethic. It's a testament to the belief in the brand and in what we're trying to accomplish and who we're trying to become, and just getting back. And there's 4 of the 5 guys have been with me quite a long time, have been, with me through various parts of my journey, or been with me for a long part of my journey. So they kind of already understand the mission from the old company. Not much in that regard has changed, of who we are, what we stand for, and what we're trying to be when we grow up. So um, we're all kind of locked in and nose to the grindstone. And certainly couldn't do it without those four. And those 4 other guys. And I was talking to them. We paved. we paved a Valvoline job. We're actually paving another Valvoline job tomorrow, which is a testament of how well we executed the one we did about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Not to brag, but we sat down after that job. It might have been a day or two after, and I said, "Man, I've just really been thinking about this job." And it wasn't a huge job. It was probably it was a 15,000 square foot parking lot or something. But we had to rip it out. We had to rip it out, demo the entire lot, haul everything off, restabilize the subgrade, grade it, compact it, make sure it was all good. We put a base course in and a surface course in, and we did with myself and 4 guys. We did that in a day and a half. And by the way, I mean, I went and looked at the lot a couple of weeks ago, and it looks amazing. Like that's what I told the guys. I was like, there aren't many teams in this town, maybe not in this country. And this, again, I'm not bragging, but it's like what we pulled off with just 5 guys in a day and a half and delivering the standard of quality that we also delivered on that project. Like, you're not going to find too many other squads of 5 people that can execute like that. And again, it wasn't this big, massive project, but I mean, it was big enough, and it was intricate enough, and it took enough attention to detail with drainage and quality. And for a customer like Valvoline, that's not going to accept a mediocre product from anybody, they're just not. And now they've hired us to do more work. So I mean, and we met with I met with the kind of their overseer of operations in this market. He came out and he was watching us as we were installing the surface out there on the second day, and he was like, "Man, he was like, this looks really good. You guys are doing an amazing job. I've got several more stores in this market that need done, and we'd like to partner with you." And it's like, man, we're doing something right. And it's um, I couldn't be doing anything without those 4 other guys, and it's
Yeah.
just me and 4 other guys. Like, it's most of the time, the way I used to operate, that would have been a 2 to 4 man prep crew, probably spending a day. And no disrespect to those crews in the past or how we operated in the past or anything like that, but like, that would have been probably at least a 10-man operation over 2 days while we controlled our own trucks and a lot of other things that we had in our favor back then that probably should have made that job easier. And we pulled it off, against a lot of odds with just 5 of us. And I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I was pretty damn proud of it, proud of us, and pretty optimistic about the path forward. There's been I'm not afraid to take these guys to go and do anything. Whether it's a 20-ton driveway or a 3,000-ton parking lot, like, we'll get it done, and it's going to look good, and it's going to drain, and it's going to pass inspection, and it's going to perform, and it's going to be everything we promise to the customer that it's going to be. And that's all I can ask for. And I know when we can start doing things like that, that the money always follows that. The financial security always follows doing the right thing and getting better and treating people right and building a team and beginning to build a culture and beginning to build something that people can believe in. Like, the rest of it always comes. It just does. You just got it one day at a time, brick by brick, get a little better every day, and the rest will be history.
Yeah, it's really impressive because I've been with you a majority of the last 7 or 8 years, and so I've really got to learn the process through watching you lead through the different types of different strategies, whether it be built in or new ones that you tried to implement. And when you talk about the prep crew, the paving crew kind of coming in after that, having kind of a systematic approach. And one of the first things that comes to mind with all that is that um, obviously you have a team of 4 that you can really count on, which you noted too. But when you don't have that, you're constantly worrying about rotating seats. And so that was more of an
Yeah, man.
observation that I would love to get in, particularly when maybe we talk about, obviously you have the off season to plan and kind of put these thoughts together, rearrange your kind of mentality, if you will, over a couple weeks and be like, what is a paving crew, what is needed. But I really wanted to get back to
Yeah.
something you mentioned first and about the current day, and you said planning, planning, planning. Because you mentioned the fact that everyone is housing their kind of equipment and just everyone's really kind of literally bringing it together.
Yeah.
But what does that look like for you? When you sit down in the morning, obviously, I'm guessing weather is a factor, but I'm guessing there's a few people that you choose to communicate with. Can you just kind of walk me through your mentality and some maybe regular common actions that you take during that preparation and planning period?
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably more intensive than I feel like it is just because I've been doing it for so long. I mean, at some point it's going to have to change because right now I'm basically I'm the receptionist, I'm customer service, I'm the salesperson, I'm scheduling the work, I'm communicating with the plant, I'm ordering the trucks, I'm telling the customer, every customer when we're coming, when we're going to be there, what day. And now I've got a field ops guy, who's with me, who's really, and he's been handling some of that this year and is really starting to take some of that off the plate to some extent. And it's going to have to continue to evolve. It can't always, it's not always just going to be me and these four guys. Like eventually things are going to evolve where maybe there is a prep crew and a paving crew and a seal coating and start to get back more into a legitimized and legitimate, structured organizational chart, if you will. Um, but for now, it's really just me wearing a lot of hats. And thank God I've got 16 years of experience doing that because I can empathize with folks that are younger or new to the industry or new to owning a business and are trying to figure this all out on their own.
Well, walk us through your
I'd be
morning.
scared to death
Well,
if I were doing this. If I were doing this for the first time, how I'm doing it, like, and I've talked about it. I said the first year we operated with the old business, we did over $1 million, and we lost because I didn't have a freaking clue what I was doing, man. And like, thank God I do this time a little bit. So we walk. What do you want me to walk through?
just some of your common thoughts. Like I understand that maybe they may seem elemental or fundamental, but
Yeah.
if someone is listening and going through those first 1 to 3 years, like what does it feel like even though you have a small crew and you're just trying to maximize what you can get out of that crew? And you just talked about some of the planning, even if it's out of
This,
order or even if it's not completely structured, just some of the thoughts
yeah.
that are maybe different now, or just that you go through on a regular basis to kind of keep this engine going?
I overemphasize communication, and I can tell. I mean, sometimes um, it can annoy some folks on my team, but we're not going to show up because we can't afford to. We can't afford, and I'm not talking about financially, but we can't afford from a consumer because I know the level of customer experience that we have to provide to keep this train rolling. Like, um, we can do all the work in the world and be good at it, but if we're not delivering a customer experience that people are coming to expect in 2024, 2025 with DoorDash and Amazon and click on a cart and go pick up your groceries kind of service, um, then they may just use us and say, okay, good job, but I'm not going to tell any of my neighbors really about you. I'm not going to tell my friends or my family. And it's not how I know that we have got to create a memorable experience for these people. And through my experience, and it's full transparency with the consumer of exactly what the process is going to look like, when we're going to be there, what it's going to look like, what we're going to do, what you can expect when we're done, what you can expect within the next 6 months to a year, when you need to seal coat, when you need, on it, the whole life cycle. I don't just sell the fact that we're coming to Pave Drive. I'm going to tell you exactly everything about this product that we're bringing and installing on your property. And so I know the promises that I've made to my consumer. And I know the promises we as Pave It Forward have to make to our consumer to become anything more than just another paving contractor in Louisville, Kentucky. And
Sure.
so if I don't transparently communicate that to the team day after day, and sometimes I'm sure it gets redundant, like be on site at 7 a.m. Make sure you have these things. Don't forget the string line tomorrow. We really could have used that. Like just, I mean, the little things that I know that go into making a job be installed or go as well as possible. It's just those little because and I think part of it is we don't have a shop. We don't have a space to meet in the morning. We don't have a place to really um, go over the work and have a checklist and say, is this on this truck? Is this on that truck? Are these things, or do we have everything? So I'm just over
You are
communicating.
the checklist.
I am the checklist, and thank God I've got 16 years experience to have a and look, I don't do it perfect. There's days I forget things. There's days um where I show up not ready to go to work or not in the right headspace or just not with the right attitude. Luckily, I have a program today where I can check myself a little sooner than I used to be able to, and I can start my day back. Before, there was no restarting a bad day. It was just going to be a bad day.
Yeah.
Now I can take 3 minutes and restart my day. And if I got to do it 20 times during the course of a day, I'll do it 20 times during the course of the day. Um, and I'll say I'm sorry to my guys if I owe them an apology or if whatever. I mean, whatever it looks like. So it's being transparent, it's communicating, it's being honest, it's holding people accountable, it's holding myself accountable. Um, and again, it's so we can deliver a consumer experience. If we make it about anything other than the consumer experience and or giving back to our community and the bigger mission that we are here to serve, then it's not going to work. If it becomes all about the money or all about the financial aspect or profitability, and by the way, uh, profitability has been pretty good. Like which if you got and again I think that's another reason I communicate so much because we have an opportunity to be profitable. We don't have much overhead. We have myself and my partner, we don't pay ourselves hourly. I mean, we have three guys that we've got to pay. We have very minimal equipment payments, very little overhead. We've got insurance, we've got workers' comp, we've got all the basics and the fundamentals. We've got marketing, we've got cell phones, um, some truck payments, some advertising. We do some shirts and some vinyl wraps and some expenditures in that arena. But if we can do things efficiently and effectively, there is some profitability too. And so and look, would it be easier to do this probably with 6, 7 guys? Absolutely. And we've had periods of this season where we've had 6 or 7 guys. There's a couple guys that are no longer with us. I mean, and we said we'd rather operate with these 5 even now that we're busier than we've been all season in the last 30 days and probably so the last 60 days of our season are probably going to be the busiest of the entire year. And we're making a choice to operate with just 5 of us because uh, we just, it wrecks the whole ship. The communication doesn't matter. The accountability doesn't matter. The hard conversations, and we didn't let these people go off their first kind of deal. I mean, every employee is a human, every consumer is a human. Um, every person involved in all of this is at the end of the day a human being. So we tried to bring them along and get them to buy in and understand what their role needed to look like 2 or 3 days a week, and it just wasn't working out. And we said we're going to go with the 5 we've got, and it's been fine.
When you had that crew of 1 or 2 extras and you had some extra time in the season to where you all were going to be able to operate and truly kind of kick butt, just the five of you. Can you I think a lot of business leaders would be like, it's my company, or they may have a tough time talking to some of the other leaders in the company about giving them kind of a voice in this. And I was just wondering how that kind of all unfolded, because obviously you all have a synergy going now that is absolutely killer. So what does that kind of look like in making those decisions, either by yourself or with the team?
Man, I won't say it's a full-blown democracy because at the end of the day, somebody's gotta steer the ship and make a decision and um, be able to do so again with the customers usually, I mean, not usually. With the customer, I mean, I'm thinking of other, situations that really aren't consumer related, but
Sure.
really at the end of the day, nearly every decision, and right now it's me, like because I'm out there, I will be the end of the line if I have to be, which is very few and far between, but and it's always um, consumer based. Like it's what's best, what is the best end result, no matter what. I mean, we had to go back and fix a job. I think it's the first legit job we had to go back and fix, where we just and I should have caught it. I was kicking myself that night. I was like, I sold the job, I scoped the job, I shot some grades on the job, and it was like, there's no way this water is not going to this drain. And 90% of the water went to the drain, but there was 10% that didn't, and it was a problem. It was a problem because of where that water went, because it didn't go to the drain. It was like, and we legit had to go back and fix it. And we were out there in the dark fixing it 2 nights ago because again, it gets dark at 5:30. But we stayed out there till 7:30, 8 o'clock with the customer, with levels, with hoses on it, with, just making sure everything was right. But so at the end of the day, I mean, somebody's got to make a final decision on what we're going to do and what things are going to be necessary to have to do them. But it's look, and again, I said it. I mean, four of the five of us have been together. One guy's been with me 2 years, the other 6 or 7, and the other 10 plus. And then we've got a guy that's been with us about a year. Um, and I lean on each and every one of them in different capacities all day long. Like it's not the Kevin show out there. It's what do you guys think's best? What is our plan? It's not this is my plan. This is what we're going to do. It's in some respect. I mean, we have an overall plan going into the day. Obviously, we know the scope of work and what needs to get done, and everybody knows how to do their respective jobs in getting us to that end result. But we'll spend some time before we get going on most jobs and say, hey, what's our game plan? How do you want to do it? Uh, how do you want to pull it? What do you want to stockpile any of this? Where do you want to put the trucks? Should we do it like this to make it, how? And we're always, and what's really cool is we're really, and I at least know I'm hyper focused on how can we make this as easy as possible for the guys on the ground. Like how can we let the equipment do the majority of this work because there is only five of us. And I don't know if we could run with just the five of us if we were working 200 days a year. I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet these guys would give it a run. I mean, I can tell you that. Like, I don't think they would back down from it, but I also know that I don't know if that's sustainable over a long period of time. Does it work for now? Absolutely. And we have a good thing going. And again, like I said, there's a lot of mutual respect out there. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of honesty. Um, and there's good communication. And we all know we're kind of up against it, and we all know no one's coming through the door to save us. A new paver's not anywhere on the near future's horizon, and we've got what we've got. And that's why I shared that on the story the other day. Because people are like, oh, people are just seeing the highlight reels, like, oh, your work's looking good, it's butter, you guys are crushing it, and I just like, this is it. And that wasn't a flex or a brag, like we're doing all this with just this, but myself and my guys know like this is all we've got. And all we've got is each other too. So it's like, and that's just kind of the mentality day in and day out. And I think because this may be harder if I had maybe four brand new guys with me that couldn't. And I've got to be the visionary. I've got to be the one selling the dream. I've got to be the one promoting where this ship is going. And maybe it would be a little more difficult if, none of these guys had been there with me before, but three of the four of them have, and they know what we're capable of. They know what it can look like. They know um, what can be of this. And I think that's just keeping us all going. I know that's
Yeah,
what's keeping me going.
sure, sure. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that it reciprocates back to them. It's just kind of a circle there. But there's two things that kind of popped to mind when you were talking about all this. One was um, well, I'll just start with the other one. One is the fact that what qualities, whether it be an actual individual person you're thinking of on your team, or just in general as a collective, the traits that these people have. Because you talked about the ability to communicate, you talked about the ability to trust each other. But I was just wondering kind of about more the intangible qualities that you think of these group, be like, man, that is just incredibly important that we have that thing in our group. And the second part to this was that you are trusting these people with the responsibility. Obviously, I think that's a product of doing this for a decade, being able to say, to let some responsibility go. So, and just kind of combining those two thoughts, just the traits of the people that are around you every day that make this possible, that maybe when people look at their careers, you're like, wow, I am thankful to have that person, or as that is something that's indispensable, in a person that I want to keep when times get tough. And then just that kind of relationship with you being able to give that person some responsibility. Can you kind of speak to one or both of those points?
Um, I think a big one is just a willingness to learn and a willingness. And these guys, they've just got and maybe I'm lucky, and I know people talk all the time about, good workforce is hard to find, and good people are hard to find, and I got a team full of guys that have some grit, and they want to learn and they want to get better, and I'll show them. I know I reference American Pavement a lot. I used to reference American Pavement and folks like them a lot in my other business as well when we had gotten pretty darn good ourselves and say this is the standard. Like I saw the driveway those guys paved over the weekend with not with porous asphalt. Let alone just any. I mean, they did it with permeable asphalt, which is impossible to work with, and to see what it looked like and how they executed and how they conduct themselves, not just conduct business, but conduct themselves and the amount of pride they take in what they do. Like when I've got people that I can, and that's got to come from the leader and the visionary too, is I've got to make these people believe that this is more than just a job. This is more than just, oh, I gotta go to work today. I gotta go to my fucking construction job today, and it's going to be hot as hell, and it's going to be hard as a motherfucker, and it's going to suck, but at least it's a paycheck. We got to get over that hump to say we're trying to do something bigger here. We're trying to become the best at this we possibly can. We're giving back to our community. Um, I've got one guy. One guy is doing the job that he's been doing for me for over a decade. The rest of us are wearing, and we're wearing. I mean, and we're all having to wear all the hats. I mean, there's 6 or 7 positions typically on a paving crew, and there's 5 of us trying to field those. So we're all doing a little bit of something, and so everyone's got a willingness to learn, to listen, to be coachable, to take instruction, to point something out. If and I'm driving the paver most of the day, so a lot of the times my focus is ahead. And earlier in the season, I would get off quite a bit and have to point, just teach, just coach. Because if I'm not willing to coach or if I'm not willing to care, they're not going to give a shit. Like they are going to just be there for a check. And now we've got people are starting to see and figure out, um, and we got a long way to go. Like, I mean, those guys at American Pavement, they've been paving together for 20, 25 years. Like, and that's what it takes. Like it takes a group of people that are willing to practice at becoming really great at something day in and day out. I've got football on in the background. Like these guys have been playing football together for a long period of time. A lot of them on the same team in the same system with the same standards and the same protocols and the same plays year after year after year. So it takes time. But you start if you got people that care and can respect each other and show up and have a good attitude and show up and can be coachable and have a willingness to learn, like we're just laying asphalt.
Mhm.
There's just a handful of things we really, really got to get our arms around um, to get this thing going. And then we can really start diving into some of the detail stuff and some of the excellence kind of, how do we get to, how do we get the standard? The standard is the standard, but how do we get that standard of excellence? You know,
Sure.
and
Grow that
that's just
into more of those crew members as you need it in the next year. Like,
that's
how do you take the mentality that your current crew has and take that into next year? Which I, it really made me think of with the turnover rate, the loyalty that you have with some of these people has got to be, tremendous, at least a heavy respect. But my curiosity lies in what what can you do for these people going forward into the winter? Obviously, you're going to take some time and, rethink about what you want your crew to look like at the beginning next year and then what happens in different business situations should you grow. But in order to keep these people that you've, created this bond with, can absolutely kick ass with, what are your mentalities as a business owner as far as how to make sure they're there next year as long as they can be, and then what are you actually communicating to them as they're going into, the end of their season where they have to make some changes?
well, I mean, if Mother Nature continues to cooperate, we'll just pave all winter long. Like
There you go.
if I mean that
Option
that
A.
would be that would be the ultimate answer for all of us, right?
Sure. Well, see,
um,
but see, that's honestly a question as well, because some of these, and obviously we're talking about a different caliber person with the crew that you have going that wants to be there,
yeah,
that really is excited to wake up, operate, and deliver part of that promise that you are delivering to a customer. But my thought is, they're going into Christmas. They have lives. Their future is kind of up in the air as much as, yours is. And of course, some of them may be thinking about second jobs. Some of them may just
100%.
take unemployment. Like there's
Yeah.
got to be some proactivity in your mind going on as far as how to best treat them as to they're not just in the dark. So I guess that's kind of where my question lies is how do you approach the off season, assuming it will come, and then just
It's
retaining
gonna come.
those people going into next season.
Uh, it's um, it's treating those folks like human beings, and as we draw nearer here towards the end of the year, um, just start having some of those conversations. Hey man, what's your off season going to look like? Do you have other employment opportunities? Do you have a backup plan? Do you have a side job? Or I've got one guy luckily has some supplemental income uh, coming in over the winter. My partner also has uh, a snow operation that one of the guys will probably help him. I think we only got 2 or 3 snow events last year, so I mean it's not it's not a foolproof plan either. So and then I've got one guy that I probably just am going to need to talk to and say, and look, maybe we're fortunate in this season that we have only worked 2 or 3 days a week because these guys have had to already kind of figure out other ways to make ends meet. And, if we were a thriving company and things were great and we were in year 2 or 3 and um, revenue was abundant, profits were abundant, I'd be figuring out ways just to take care of these guys through the winter. That's just, I mean, they've taken care of me and this company through the entire season. Like, let's figure out how we can manage 8 or 10 weeks, or how can we manage some kind of savings plan, or I mean, whatever. We used to pay, at least all of our leadership and some of even our key guys. We'd figure out a way to get them all the way through the winter without having to deal with unemployment and bringing them in, keeping them around and busy through the winter. So I mean, that's certainly something. That's something I don't ever want to take for granted, that these folks are just gonna stay and be back in the spring. Things do happen. Other opportunities do arise. I don't want to lose any of these guys. I don't want them to go find another opportunity over the winter and be like, hey man, this is you know a little better money than I was even making with you, and blah blah blah. And I think I'm just gonna ride it out. So um, yeah, we've got to talk about those things, and um, I've got to understand what people's situations look like, and do the best I can. Is it my sole responsibility to make sure they're provided for all winter long when they're in it working in a seasonal business? I don't know. In my gut, I would lean to say yes. I mean, they've given, if they're going to continue to be a part of this team, and this is where they see a future for themselves, and a means to provide for themselves and their families and for years to come, then absolutely we're gonna figure this out to where it makes sense on a 12-month deal, when we're a 9, 10 month kind of operational company. So
Yeah,
certainly some things to think about. I mean,
yeah,
look, I mean, this year one for me in a business. I mean, um, uh, I don't know how much longer we're going to get to pave. We've got a couple more. It's crazy. I don't think I've ever seal coated into mid-November, but we're going to seal coat 2 or 3 jobs this upcoming Wednesday. And I thought we were done with that 2 weeks ago, but it's going to be 70 degrees again Wednesday, and there's a couple that really would like to get done. But even for me going in, it's been a decade, if I'm being honest, that I've had to worry about getting through a winter myself, or plan or budget or forecast or make sure and prepare that I've gathered enough nuts to be able to survive in my little squirrel hole for a 2 or 3 month winter. So.
yeah.
Uh,
You got a couple other squirrels in there too, so
yeah, we got a few squirrels down in there. Yeah, no doubt. So it's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
it's and I think that's what makes it uh, good or okay, is we're all kind of talking about it. And I'm not talking about it with all of the crew from a business perspective on how where we are financially, or how we're going to get through the winter, and what's startup costs look for next season, just starting to plan all these things. But um, because this is kind of year one again for all of us in a new entity, it's kind of something we openly discussed to some extent. As we all know what's coming,
Hmm.
so we're kind of just, we'll have open dialogue about it a little bit. And I know one thing: we've got each other's back, and nobody's going to let anybody um, anybody down, as long as they have something to do about it. So
Sure.
um, yeah,
It's interesting to me. Like I was thinking here, maybe there's some way to have some kind of percentage out of each paycheck, set aside,
yeah,
until, the end of the season. Although that brought into mind that, well, if people have money built up and they're halfway through the summer, they might just quit to get that pocket cash if they need it. So it made me just think, like, let's do some research on some different mentalities that businesses have out there to address that. But the other thought was, as the season wraps up, obviously there's some things, whether it be having to do with equipment or just wrapping up for the season before you let after you make the decision that we're going to go ahead and shut down for the season, some things that you want to do for people that are still have their crew intact, just like you do. Is there any type of checklist or things that you want to make sure that you can do for either your equipment or your business pertaining to before the employees are let go for the season?
Yeah, I mean, there's man, especially now when the days get shorter and like I said, we don't have a concentrated, shop necessarily. So there's certainly going to be some things we need to do with the equipment before we put them away for the winter, and just we're probably in a situation like most are in our industry this time of year, and it's especially that have limited equipment, and that in the past, if a paver broke down or a skid steer went down, I'd just go back to the yard and grab next one up. We had two or three backups for everything, and that's just not the case right now. So we're doing everything we can on a daily basis to make sure this stuff is functional and operationally in good working order, so that we can. There would be no greater travesty this time of the year than to get this big pop of work come in and us not to be able to go out and perform it in the capacity or fashion that we like to, because our equipment's down, or we got to, you know, that gets super stressful when you got to start um, calling around trying to rent equipment or borrow equipment, or duct tape something together, not literally, but sometimes literal duct tape, just to get through a job or get through the week or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, there's stuff to do. I'm actually going. I don't know that I'm in the market to buy anything, but our cat dealer is having their I don't know, they're having a yellow tag sales event this Thursday where they've got pieces on their rental fleet that they're turning over to sell. So I'm just going to go. I'm going to see if anything makes sense. I'm going to see if there's anything that we could maybe get on a rent to own financing kind of plan, or because I mean, the equipment we have is knock on wood is going to get us through this season, but how, another season? I don't know. Maybe. I'm supposed to be coming into another Weiler 385 paver, so that would give us one in a backup, potentially, or two good machines we could trade in on maybe a new machine or a very lightly used model paver, because eventually those things become more burdensome than they are productive. So there's a
Yep.
breaking point at some point of this machinery's life that it just doesn't make sense to continue to operate. I mean, up to we were out there as the sun was setting the other night trying to rush and get this fixed, that we lost power to the skid steer, and we were putting a screw in the ground wire, and it was hooking to the battery just to try to give it something to ground off of so we could get it started back. Nothing major, but we've got a loose wire or something funny going there that's we got it started, but it's like we don't want to be dealing with that every day of the rest of the season. Like, so it's certainly got some things we need to get fixed before we put them away for the winter. And I'm already, and it's probably because I've just been programmed to do so from doing this for a while. I'm starting to think about, what are we to where we need to be thinking about owning and operating a dump truck or two, or are our pavers going to get us through another season? Um, is the skid steer we have good enough? Yes. Could one of similar, value, maybe a little more, help us? Could it help us be more efficient? Start really drilling into the data points and the productivity and efficiencies that we're getting from this machinery, and seeing if anything else might make more sense, or something may make less sense, or just starting to analyze, are we running, we may look like we've got low overhead, but is our low overhead costing us some time or efficiency because it's not the right equipment, or the equipment's we're starting to have to deal with this, and maybe a payment would make sense on something if we can pump out another job or two a week because we acquire something a little better. So it's really just starting to plug in those things and start thinking about short term and long term goals and where we want to be and what we need to own and acquire, what kind of assets and not just machinery, but manpower need to look like to get there. So
Well,
we'll we'll know a lot more. I mean, we've got a an entire full year of data in our CRM software now that tells us how what kind of volume is reaching us, how much of that we're closing. This winter is going to give us some clues on what 2025's going to look like. Knock on wood, we're out of the election cycle, so usually things pick. Election cycle years are usually down for most of us in the construction trades. They just people kind of get reserved with it. I don't know if it's just I don't know, and I really don't think there's anything there with it. I think people just get like a phobia of, oh, something's going to happen. Let's not spend this year. Let's keep that capital reserve for next year just in case. And it's so hopefully we'll see an uptick in that.
if the policy on parking lot change,
Yeah,
asphalt
that's
paving,
right.
and see
Yeah,
if there's any major,
yeah,
changes in this election. Yeah, doesn't make
yeah.
much sense, but you're right. I know a lot of industries do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just man, I don't know. It's interesting though. Every election, I've been so this is I guess my fourth election cycle I've been through in business, and every one of those years um is just kind of down. Not that it really goes backwards, but it's never really a growth year either. It's just kind of a everybody's just kind of, and it may be placebo effect to some extent with people, especially on the commercial side, they're buying or purchasing, but
Mhm.
maybe we'll see it pop loose. And I can say it it doesn't matter who won or not. I'm not implying that it's because of the candidate that won that we're going to see an increase in the economy. It's usually those election years are just slow for construction. So it would be better in 2025 no matter what, I would say.
Yeah, and I got to say I'm really excited and thinking about even different formats of us communicating and just presenting things on Pave It Forward because some of these off-season decisions are very interesting and they can't apply universally across businesses because every business is in a different situation and every piece of equipment is completely different. So if you and I
Mhm.
can kind of sit here and just kind of talk about what is it or like the pros and cons between what is having two pavers ready to go that are in both in somewhere between a 5 and a 7 rather than having a 3-year-old piece of equipment that has some kind of warranty on it that doesn't have a
Yeah,
and then
that's
also
right.
using that data that you talk about to talk about the types of leads to predict. From my end, I've thought here 4 or 5 times that it's just kind of common that SEO takes about 6 months to get going. And so that would have put us in October, which makes or September, which would have meant that we're starting to pick up steam. So it's really kind of interesting
Yeah,
to be
man.
picking up steam as far as like the search engine optimization. So normally your leads start going down this time of year. But there's just so many factors to projecting what will that mean? Do we even want to do you even want to like make big purchases or X amount of purchases just based on projections? And so it's just a living organism, as every business
That's
is.
right.
I think it's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting if we can kind of open this up to really just kind of dive into a little bit more, not necessarily having to use your specific numbers, but really getting into the theory
No,
behind why behind why business decisions are made. So that's pretty darn exciting to me to really to have all that data and just to
yeah, man.
see what makes sense. Because it's over the last couple of months, it's always been a thing, you've kind of talked about as far as the receipts on the dashboard for contractors, and they have no clue what's coming in and what's coming out. But through my journey of trying to understand data, period, marketing is, I hate people I almost hate people telling people I'm in marketing because there's such an icky feeling related behind it because so much of marketing is not based on data. what people are sold is just based off of a skill that
Dude,
people are hoping to exacerbate. So when you and I can get in there and really just look at the data and make comparisons and just really nerd out on what could possibly be related from the data to what we saw and then making plans based off that, that is when business really gets exciting because when you have reliable data that you care about, that you track regularly, and that you can start to build that off of what you're preaching to your team, add that onto the focus, the fact that you're focused on making this customer service centric, like that is when you really, no, the hair starts to stand up on your arms because you're
no
turning
doubt,
you're
dude.
turning something that you care about into more of a science and something that you should have confidence in. So from a personal standpoint, I'm really excited to dive into that and see what we can do for anybody that's listening out there that might be going through some similar decision making as they're sitting there by themselves, with their business in front of them for the next year and just try to make the best decisions possible.
No, absolutely. And it took me, and I guess I got lucky to some extent, at least in the early years, that we didn't um, get hurt or get hit hard just because I'll tell you why, because a lot of the decisions I made early on were just, look, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and you don't have faith and optimism and hope and belief that things are going to be better next year, then you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. You probably shouldn't own a business. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you should go out and buy a new paver just
Yeah.
because, I'm serious, and I did it.
Yeah.
And these
Yeah.
people that do it all the time is, um, if you can't explain, if you can't pinpoint, or if you can't validate with some data or justification and some numbers or real projections, and explain why are you buying this asset? Why are you buying this piece of equipment, this truck, hiring this crew, buying that computer, buying that drone, like whatever business decision expense you're making, uh, it can't be an expense. Anything you buy for your company needs to be an investment, and you should have a calculated return on that investment before you ever spend a dollar. Um, I've had people, and the answer is not, oh, because we got a big job so I can afford a new paver. Show me in black and white your logic and your justification behind that. And I've talked to, I don't know how many young business owner entrepreneurs in this asphalt industry over the past 15 years, but it's in the hundreds, I can guarantee you that. And I've had a bunch of these hard conversations with and talking through, are we ready to buy? And I've are we ready to buy? Are we ready to invest? Are we ready to grow? And I'll walk them through the whole, let's see your numbers, let's walk through your numbers, let's walk, and that's how we make the decision. It's not like, oh, it sounds all good. Yeah, go buy that paver. Show me. And I've told people, I've recommended to people to buy machinery, and they have. And so far, so good. They've all made good on their investment because I think we did enough homework and research and due diligence to justify that investment. And
Yeah, man.
that's how it's got to be. It can't because I want it because it's new and shiny, or I think it's going to make me more money, or the crew's going to like it better. Those things are great, but those can be a part of it. They can
Yeah,
be a big part of it, but they can't be the only part of it.
absolutely.
And
So
that
yeah,
stuff's awesome to get into.
yeah. Then
Like,
it's because it is what matters. Because without it, when without the security, um, without the security of it in the back of my brain, anyways, I have a hard time executing. Period. Um, so, anyways, if you, the listener, want to keep this conversation going, please visit us at Pave It Forward LLC or on YouTube and Instagram at Pave It Forward and Pave It Forward LLC. Kevin, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. I feel like we did a decent job making up for time past, but I
yeah,
really
man, that's a
appreciate
good
your,
convo.
yeah, yeah.
Those are some
And
good
I know
questions. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Did you leave anything on the table there? Any last thoughts for the people before we sign off today?
No, but I just want to thank you for even taken me there because it's helped me kind of start, although I'm already planning off-season stuff and starting to think about some of these things and have these conversations internally and externally, like it's really kind of kicked it in for me too. So
Sure,
thanks.
man.
Yeah, it's good
Absolutely.
discussion.
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure to join you here again. And these are the kind of conversations that really make it a joy to be a business owner when you get to talk to other business owners, because it can be an island sometimes. So, Kevin, thanks for your
No
time.
doubt.
Thanks for everyone listening out there. Check out
Mhm.
our previous episodes if you got some extra time. And if not, we'll see you on the next one.